Are you on?
I am. I don't. Oh, there it is. Wait.
I
What the
can't see
heck?
you. I can just hear you.
Hold on.
Okay, there you are.
You can see me now?
Yes.
That was so weird. It said that I couldn't. I don't know what it said. It said that I couldn't use my face. I don't know. It's so far away from me. I don't
I
want
love
to
what you
move
did with your
anything.
hair. I really like it.
Huh?
I love what you did with your hair.
Oh, thank you. I'm still getting used to it. Um,
I like it.
I have like a weird. I have a weird time wearing it down because it's like a true shag. And if I don't really like know how to style it yet, and it very much has like Tammy at the trailer park vibes. Like it's a when I don't style it right, it's very much a mullet.
I mean, I think it's cute. You're good.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's not a mullet today. I tucked away all the mullet pieces.
Should I message Misty really fast and just like let her know whenever she's ready she can hop on? Or
Yeah, how did you? It told me that you invited me, so
yeah, I there was an option for it. I'm still figuring this out, but there was an option to invite you. So I'll just tell her whenever she's ready. I'll send her an invite. Oh no, we lost Bex.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I was like, where?
Oh, that's so weird. So you can like, I didn't even know that you can have effects now. Like I could put on like the beautify filter. I'm not gonna fuck with it though.
I full on watched a video on how to do this because I'm so fucking like tech illiterate. Hi,
I,
mom.
hi. I literally feel like way older than my age
Oh, I do too.
when
I
it comes to tech.
There's Misty. I was just about to message you.
Is it easy? Did you just like click to add her?
Yeah, I just hit invite, so hopefully it works. I don't
Here?
know if it works. Oh yay! Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
We're like still learning how to do this, and I don't want to like touch anything. It has on my screen, it has an option for like 6 people, and I don't want to touch anything.
Yeah, same. Mine too. I don't know how it works, and I'm scared I'm gonna mess something up. But
You're probably going to get random people requesting you the whole time.
oh no. Well,
I mean, it's very possible.
yeah,
That's the whole. We're still waiting on some people to hop in, but that was like our whole idea with the chat roulette is just that if people wanted to like ask us questions or whatever, that we would just pretty much accept anybody. But then I don't know.
I feel like that would get like messy really fast, but I think it'd be fun.
I think it'll get messy really really quickly. I think we are gonna have some people that are gonna ask some really weird stuff.
I get some really strange people coming up, like asking to join whenever I'm live.
Do you get weird questions when? Because you go like live
Yeah.
and just like hang out. Do you get like really weird questions?
Yeah. I think last time somebody asked me, "How do you feel about nurses?" Which doesn't seem like very. It's not strange, but it's a really weird thing to ask someone who's like packing orders on a live, you know?
Yeah. It's like a very specific question.
Yeah, like I feel great about them. I don't know.
They're literally like an extremely important part of our society.
Yeah.
Are you asking if I'm going to write a book about one or?
Right. Hi, Ruby.
Hi, everybody. People are popping in. We'll just give them a couple minutes. I know I got like a lot of messages from people that were just saying that like Saturdays are hard because they do stuff, and I'm like, I must literally be the biggest square in the entire world because I do not a thing.
I
Yeah.
don't either. I rarely leave my house in the first place, but definitely I'm not into being in crowds on the weekends.
Yeah, same. We went shopping today and I was like, why are we doing this? There's a million people out here. Like, I just want to go home.
Yeah. Take me back to my comfort space, please.
Yes. And my husband has like the weirdest like thought process on like going out. Like, I don't know, it was the Super Bowl was it last weekend? I don't know, I didn't watch it. It was a Super Bowl, and he was like, we're gonna need to pre-plan the grocery store. We can't go out this weekend. And I was like, why? He was like, because it's a Super Bowl. I'm like, I think you overestimate what that means for the grocery store.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't overestimate that. No.
Was it wild? I was like, I ordered delivery.
Yeah. I didn't go, but my husband went out, and he said the grocery store was nuts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, we just had like our Instacart person tell us like they were out of everything, and I was like, well, that's to be expected. Too many people. Yeah, there's too many people out for sure.
I say it's because there's too many people, but I don't even go out when there aren't too many people. So
I don't like go to populated places anyways, like ever.
Yeah, same. Not if I can avoid it.
Like, that's my biggest thing. Like, one of my favorite places in the world is Disneyland, but I'm like, oh my God, people like touch you and rub on you, and it's a lot.
We went to a couple music festivals. We went one last year, and then the one before. That did not make sense, but whatever. And I was so anxious the entire time we were in there. I was like, we need to have multiple exit routes. Like, we need to know how to get out of here. I just get so like, that's mostly like Jake gets anxious in crowds just because there's so many people, and I'm anxious because I'm like, oh my God, something bad is gonna happen. Because I'm crazy. But
well, listen to this. Like, I was just live on here packing orders a little bit ago, and this girl was saying that there was a guy behind her in line, and he just kept getting closer and closer to her and her daughter, and she kept like trying to back away from him. He squirted hand sanitizer in her eyes.
What?
Oh my God.
And she was like blind, like shoving her daughter behind her. And I'm like, see, that's why I don't leave my house.
That's insane.
That's terrifying. They were okay?
Yeah, she said she's okay. Like, the clerk brought her some water, flushed her eyes, and she pressed charges against the guy. But how scary is that?
That's terrifying.
I saw a video. Oh,
go ahead. No.
Go.
This is what we do, back and forth all the time. I saw a video of like a toddler in a grocery cart, and this man just walked by and snatched her when the mom turned her back, and I was like, this is insane. I can't believe that people just do stuff like that.
No, that's why he did that. Yeah, did they say why that he put the hand sanitizer in her eyes? Like, was he trying to purposefully blind her and like take her child?
No, I think like she just didn't want him like right at their backs because, you know, space.
Yeah.
You want space. And I think she might have said something to him.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know,
got mad.
Can I get a little more space? And he flipped out.
That's such an extreme reaction.
That is an extreme reaction. I mean, honestly, like, I'm always the person that like errs on the side of caution just because I think, I don't know, people are like scary and shady. But like, my husband is a complete opposite. His whole response to everything is always like, that will never happen. That will literally, you're like anxious over nothing. And there was a time that like I went to the grocery store a few years ago, and I was like, it was like on my lunch breaks in the middle of the day. It's like in a really well-populated neighborhood. And some guy, like, if you've ever noticed, like, I mean, I don't think there's any woman who's ever not had an experience where you're just like, I'm being followed, or I'm being looked at, or like the car next to me is like honking. Like, people are just weird. And this guy, he just like, he bumped into my cart, and then like every aisle he was just there. And I immediately was like, look, it's 3 p.m. Like, you're not trying to be in this aisle right now. And like, sure enough, like I went to go check out, and he's right behind me, and like he had like one thing. And so they have like a Starbucks inside the store. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go hang out at the Starbucks. And like, he gets right behind me in the Starbucks line, and I'm like, dude, oh my God, like,
so crazy.
My brain is already like 50 steps ahead. And the guy just gets a water, and I'm like, no, for sure, like something is going down. And I went and like sat at a table and I called my husband. He was like, there's nothing. Like the guy is literally just at the store. He's just at the store. And I'm like, you don't understand. So like I sit there and like pretend like I'm having a whole ass lunch, like from my grocery bags. And he sits inside the Starbucks and he's watching me. And I'm like, dude. So I finally like packed up everything and I was like, I'm just gonna book it. I like ran out of the store and he followed me. And then as soon as I like got to the threshold, like there was another guy standing there and like he like did like the chin at the guy and then they both looked at me and I ran back in the store and I got a manager and the manager was like super pissed, but I made him walk me out and the car followed me and I had to call the police. I'm like, and my husband's over here like, no, you're like making this whole thing up.
Oh my God.
No,
I'm like, you don't understand. People are nuts.
Yeah, a woman's intuition, like you always know when it's off.
Yes. Every time.
And people are just creepy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can get started. People are here now. So this is our first one. Haley and I, we go live a lot, but we wanted to start talking about kinks with other authors. And part of it is like what the author's favorite kinks are in their books. Because I mean, obviously, like I think within the dark romance and romance spectrum, like we all write it. But I've learned like as an author that I get a lot of messages from people that have said like, I had no idea that this kink existed, or like, what made you think about that, or what research did you do to get there? And I mean, obviously, like some research we don't have to talk about, but I think it's turned into like a pretty big learning experience for a lot of people. And I think it makes, especially women in particular, like a lot more comfortable with their sexuality and trying out new things by reading it. I don't know. So we just kind of thought it was going to be a cool thing to chat with other authors about and see like, I don't know, where they got their inspiration or what they enjoy writing or reading. I think that, I don't know. I was really surprised when you picked yours, and I think that is like common in a lot of books, but it was hilarious because Haley and I both went to the same one. We were like, wait, we have to talk about that one. We have to know how Misty got there.
Yeah.
What one?
The cage.
Yeah, the cage in Birdie's Fire. We immediately were like, we have to talk to her about this.
I like don't think I've ever read anything like that before.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's so interesting too.
Yeah.
So, well, my initial instinct was like, he has to keep her contained, right?
Yeah.
But like, what would they have? I mean, you can lock her in a room, but like, that's not really interesting, right?
Yeah.
So I just knew that like Rock, he has all of his dogs. So it would just be, I don't know.
Oh, it just evolved. It just went there.
It just evolved. And then I started thinking about like how I could incorporate it into the ending where it turns something that's kind of ugly into something that's kind of pretty, right?
Yeah.
And so by the end, when it's like a full-on thing for her, it seemed like it was always meant to be that way, you know?
Yeah.
But that's not how it started. It just started with like, well, he's got to keep her contained, and you know, locking her in a room is so boring.
A complete dick move and turned into like their thing.
Yeah.
I loved the way that ended though. Like with her getting the birdcage. I loved it.
Yeah.
Well,
and I thought,
go ahead.
I thought it just turned so sexy, you know?
Yeah.
The way that it evolved. But that's honestly how most of everything in my books start. Is like, it's just like a flicker of an idea and then it snowballs into
like a whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that the cage thing is really interesting. Like, I thought, I mean, like, and I can totally understand how, like, it just started as something and then became a thing, because I think, like, that's super common in writing. But, I mean, like, as far as, like, kinks go, because I don't know that I've ever heard, like, necessarily birdcage, which is why I was like, dude, that's so hot. Like, people are going to, like, literally get bird cages in their house. I'm sure that they have them. I've heard of, like, other types of cages. But...
Yeah.
I don't think
Because
we'll get flagged.
when I was writing like the ending scene where, they now have their house and it's the happily ever after, and I actually found, because I like to have visual references. I have aphantasia, so I don't see things in my head. It's just like a black space. So I always have to have like visual representations of whatever I'm writing. So there are actual like human-sized bird cages that you can.
You can
I mean,
buy
I don't know what the use is, but
oh, I was gonna say specifically for like kink stuff, but
no, but I would imagine that would be.
That's probably.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to picture what in God's green earth you could have a cage for just like daily
That
use
wouldn't
that's
be.
not for kink.
Yeah.
It's just there.
It's for my kids.
That's normal. That's not, we don't have a dog, no. I have seen like the actual dog cages and kink, and there was a book, like my best friend read it. I haven't read it, so I can't even remember what it was, but that she said that they had okay, well, it was a kink, but like it didn't start that way. It started like your book, but like way darker. But like it was like a cage under the bed, and that's just where he kept her. But then it eventually turned into like a kink thing. I don't know. How do people keep a lot of birds together in those big cages? Oh.
Oh.
It's not where I thought that comment was going to go.
No.
I'm sure there's a Reddit thread for that. Oh, that's hilarious. There is. That's actually funny. Sure. So, today it's funny that we were talking about it because I went to this like birthday dinner with my dad, and he came over and he was like, all my books. And I'm so weird about my family members reading my books. And he was like, so like, I've been wanting to start. Where do I start? And I'm like, dude, like, you don't have to. And he's like, no, I want to. I'm like, okay. And he's like, what is each one about? And I'm like, seriously. Seriously. And my husband's like, this is about lactation. And I'm like, dude. And my dad's girlfriend is there, and she was like, so where do you research? How do you get all the information about all of these? And I was like, well, you don't want to ever. I think that's the same for like any author. I'm like, you don't want to ever check my Google history, but I can imagine like, have you like Misty? Have you ever fallen down like a Reddit rabbit hole with like the kink and stuff, like the BDSM research?
Oh, 100%. Right now I'm writing a new biker series, and they own a brothel, right? Because in Story County, which is just a neighboring county to me, prostitution is legal. So my bikers own a brothel, and they have all of these themed rooms, and one of them is like an alien galaxy type room, and there's all of these like different toys in there that they can use. So for, I don't know, a week straight, all I did was read, research, and watch too many videos on all of these different things that can be used if you want to have an out of this world experience.
Have you seen I'm sure you have, but the like toys and stuff on Etsy for alien, it's insane. I didn't know that like half of that stuff existed until Beck showed me, and I was like, oh my god, this is an entirely new world.
Yeah. I can't wait to write my first scene like actually using the room, because like there are like gelatin eggs that they warm up to body temperature and leave you that way. But it's so fascinating to me, and honestly, like, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. I think that those, like, I researched those because well, if you've read like any of like Lillian Lark books, and I'm sure that there are others, but that was my first experience like being introduced to, I don't even know if I ever say it right, but Ava poster, is that what it's called? When it's then like the guy like laying an egg basically inside of her, right? Yeah. So those toys, like, it's supposed to like recreate that and
simulates that.
It's a whole thing. I would assume that it would be like a cable ball. Like, really, like I don't know. It's probably interesting.
You really can get anything on Etsy. It's true.
Yeah. You can. I think that's a really, really cool concept for a book, though, is having a brothel themed that way. Like, I have one of my books, I don't know if you've ever read, like, Omegaverse, but one of my books is humans using toys from Etsy for knotting. And it's funny because, like, a lot of the people that responded to that book went to Etsy and bought those toys. And I'm like, hell yeah, like, go experience all those things. But I think it's a really cool like concept to take a completely human situation and turn it, kink, like something like that with the help of toys. I haven't looked at like all the alien ones, but I'm sure that they're really cool things.
There's one that has like all of these like octopus suckers all the way down,
Yeah.
And I thought that would be pretty interesting.
There's this one that and I think Haley and I have like sent pictures back and forth of it, and if you've like looked at like all the Etsy's and the toys, like they have, we know Bex is to stop. Shopping right now, I'm literally on Etsy on my computer. No, they have these ones that I just can't, and it's not a kink shame. I cannot like picture in my head how on earth this works, but because like the knotting things, like it's essentially like it's a sleeve that the dude wears, and they have other ones that I'm sure that you've seen, Misty, if you've like looked at all the alien stuff, but they're like a maw, like, so that was what they were called, right? We were looking at them, Haley, like they have like animal teeth on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where?
Yeah, it's like
he puts it on and then like, where do the teeth go? Like,
yeah.
Wait, explain more. I don't.
I'm gonna pull up a picture of one so I can see it.
Is out, so it's like a mouth that's like open like this.
Yeah.
But you can see like all of the teeth, and if you sit on that, those teeth are like going to hit you.
It's very overnight shipping.
Why doesn't Etsy have overnight shipping?
Dude, and like Isla, just so you know, like I think a lot of them come from like China, so like they take a very long time to get here, just an FYI.
Yeah, I've seen that TikTok account, Caitlin. I definitely follow. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, wait, what, Haley, do you remember? I have to look up because now I have to explain this maw thing. What was that website? Is it Dark?
Oh, I don't know. You know my memory.
Dark Path is what that.
I do think the teeth were silicone, though. I don't think they were like.
Were they like metal? Like.
I think it was all silicone, but I still don't understand the point of them, because I think the way it's designed, like I don't know where it would hit. I don't think it would hit any like. I don't know how to say it for TikTok. Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking at one right now, and this is like, and I don't know. Okay. So it has like the main feature is like what you were talking about, Misty. Like I think that this one is it's supposed to be a tongue, but it kind of looks like an octopus leg. But it sits inside of like an alien's jaw. So and it shows that the tongue is the thickness of a beer can. So FYI. But it sits in like an alien's jaw, and the bottom part, it literally looks like a dog's jaw. So like it's got literal like silicone teeth. And if that thing is supposed to go inside of you, like the teeth, the top and bottom jaw are gonna like hit in some really interesting places. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. And then like the length of it is 18 centimeters. Oh my God.
Well, maybe you're not meant to reach the teeth. Maybe that's more like a visual.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's all so interesting and so cool. Like the teeth one, like I think they make me nervous, but I think that the idea of it is really cool.
Yeah.
I think especially with like the amount of like non-human romances that are like just becoming super popular. She's tongue twisted. Yes, pretty much. Yeah, that with the non-human books that are becoming like so popular I think it's really cool. Like you can have those experiences, especially the ones that are meant for couples. Those are really cool.
Yeah, like the sleeves that are like, you know, alien tentacle-ish type things. Like, I think that's just so fun. I think it's just something, you know, especially for all of the alien romance readers and
Yeah.
monster romance readers.
I love that. Okay, somebody's comment already got removed, so be careful. Make sure to like censor your comments. But yes, okay, Lo, I think, yeah, so that's what they're called, like the grinders. One of my readers that read the knotting one was talking about that, like the grinders that are textured for that purpose. I think that's really cool.
Now I want to look it up. Now I need to like see.
It's hard to explain without seeing it, because it's like, it's definitely something interesting, I think.
Thank you, Nella. Thank you. I was telling Haley I'm still getting used to it. I think I have to learn how to style it so that I don't have a mullet. Like, I tucked all the mullet pieces away. Yeah, it's all very interesting.
Okay, I get it. Just another thing to add to my Google history now, because now I'm going to want to put these inside that room too.
Yes. I thought you were going to say you're going to add it to your shopping cart. Oh, there's that too.
I might do that too, but I'm not going to say that.
The mullet isn't. I know. I think that's why my hairstylist was like, hell yeah. And I'm like, dude, I don't know.
That's my stepsister.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. So I think it's all really cool stuff. And then spanking, interestingly enough, so after you said that, I was like, okay, that's like, there's a lot of different ways that can be looked at that. And it was funny because Haley and I were talking about like gathering facts for spanking for like the education portion, and she was showing me all these things. Like, I had no idea. Like, I think especially in books, like spanking is just used as like it's so common and frequent, but like the actual like spanking positions, and there's rules to it, and like not even just what is it called? What did you say that we should call it, Haley? Not spanking. Oh, impact play. Like, not just impact play, but actual spanking. There's like rules.
Yeah.
Rules and locations and all sorts of stuff. I don't know. I think it's really interesting.
I'm such a history nerd, like, whatever. But I found that there was like a depiction somewhere from like the 4th century of a woman. Like, they were basically, it was 2 men and a woman, and she was getting spanked, and it was very interesting because I guess that's like the first depiction of it. Sorry if nobody cares about that, but I thought it was interesting that it's like gone on like literally forever.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research on because it's like choking, right? Like there's ways to do it and ways to not do it, and it's just like one of those things. But I read this series, and this is why I don't know why, but I seriously want to put spanking inside every single one of my books. And my editor even has commented, like, do we really need this in this book too? Like, I don't know, but I read this series, and it was written in like the 50s or something, right? And it was like back when women were like really treated poorly and like, you know, a child or whatever, and got punished. But I found it so hot that like he would, you know, give her rules, and then she would break them, and then he would like, okay, it's time for your spanking, and they would like sit down, and so that was like my first, and this was years and years ago, that was my first like, am I into that?
Yeah.
You know, type of moment. And it was like a 12-book series. I'm not even kidding. Like 50-page books, like really short.
Yeah.
That is where like that whole thing started. And then when I started to write it into books, that's when I did all of the research about, you know, trying not to hit in the same spot the same spot twice, and what hurts worse and what doesn't hurt worse, and the fleshy parts, and everything. So
Haley sent us a picture thing of the most like 5 common positions for it, and I was like, I don't know. I think that with spanking, especially when you're reading it, unless it's like an actual like BDSM or like dom sub like punishment situation or scene, that it's so commonly done in just like a like they're going at it and he's like spanking her. Like it's so common in that sense to like actually read about it from I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like
I think now it's just like part of, Smex. It's a thing, but I think it, it probably it didn't start that way,
Yeah.
Well, I saw a lot whenever I was looking at stuff that people were saying, I guess in that community, they were saying that they consider it more vanilla because it's just so normal now.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's doing it. It's kind of like choking where it's just
like choking now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild?
Sorry. I accidentally had a notification.
I know you can't. That's why I'm like, I can just not touching any buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that that's so interesting that those things are becoming vanilla. And it's something that like Haley and I talk about all the time with, I think that just exposure, and for people who, like we write, so obviously we're looking into this stuff. And I think the more that you research and the more that you become exposed to it, obviously the less like wow factor there is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because I feel almost at this point, because I read so much as well as writing, that like I've almost become desensitized to things. So like you see like a spanking, or even, and it's funny because you say even like choking, like you see those scenes and you're just like, that's just see it all the time. Like very rarely do I see things anymore that I'm just like, wow, that's that was new. The egg thing was new.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I try to like, when I'm writing, I just want to like find something that excites me. And a lot of things just like don't excite me anymore because you said, you've been exposed to so much. And so it's always like, you just want to do something different, something new, something fresh, something exciting, just to like get that hit of, what is it, dopamine or whatever,
Yeah.
We're literally getting dopamine hits by
Smut.
By researching aliens.
By smoke scenes. And it's funny too, because like if you talk to people who like are not like in this community, or who read the kind of books that we write and stuff, that like for example, okay, for one, it's my stepdad, so like that was awkward in itself, but he was just like, no, like it's fine, like let's just talk about it. And I'm like, oh my god, like you're here with your girlfriend, I'm here with my husband, like this is real weird. And my husband's like, no, like this book is about this. And I'm like, dude, and I have a book that like has lactation in it. And it was funny because my stepdad was like, yeah, I'm not reading that. And I was like, okay, that's fine, like I would prefer you don't read any, but like okay. And he was like, actually and I told him, I was like, honest, like to be real, like when you read it, it's not shocking to me anymore how easily I can look at something and be like, yeah, I don't know if I could do that, and then read it and be like, yeah, no, like that's a thing for me now. There's not many things that I can't get into, honestly, especially when it's written right, like written well.
Yeah, exactly, Isla. That's exactly why your books are getting spicier. But okay, so you mentioned that you have like a lactation book.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I saw a TikTok that was talking about that very recently, and just the last like week and a half, I have fallen down the lactation hole. I cannot come up for air, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I think I read like I very rarely eyeball read because I just don't have time, and I just fall asleep because I'm so tired. I'm just have audiobooks. So I read 3 books the other night. I eyeball read 3 books They were a little bit shorter, but still, because I just can't get enough. So you have to tell me, what is that book called?
It's Santa's Baby. And that one was just like my Christmas novella. But it's interesting because like even with lactation, like I remember when I first got into reading it as well, I was like, I genuinely don't know if I can get into that. It's like doing, Haley and I have talked about this before, but like doing the like corn portion of the research, if that is a portion that you ever do. Yeah. Having seen some of those when I first got in, when I was writing my book, I was like, at first I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And then you watch it and you're like, well, okay. There's, especially with lactation, I think, because there's like an element of like care and like sweetness to it. But then I've also seen it done where it's just filthy, and I'm okay with like both of them. But that Santa's Baby was interesting because she's currently pregnant. And what started that for me was that I had a friend who talked about, because I don't have any kids yet, but she had talked about that when she was pregnant, that when she would like be intimate with her husband, that she would leak. And she was like, I've never read a book about that or had people talk about how common that occurrence is. Like, and she was telling me that when she had her first son, that like she was so uncomfortable that would happen, that occurrence would happen to her, especially like later in her pregnancy, and how it made her like, she would wear a shirt during, and everything. And she was like, I don't know, you should write a book about like how common that is. And I was like, I'll do it. That's gonna take a lot of research because like I've not experienced that whatsoever. I don't know, but it's all very, it doesn't take much to make a like taboo thing not feel taboo to me. I think I've like been able to get into almost every single kink I've ever read.
I think for me, I might not be like into them, but I can understand them.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm reading it. So it might not be something that I'm like necessarily like, oh, I'm going to do this. But it's usually like, I mean, I can like justify anything in my head. Like if I can get it from your perspective, I can justify it. So I don't know. That's more of like with kink stuff for me, is it's just interesting too. But
well, and I think like that's what makes readers more empathetic human beings, right? Because once they read that experience and they see it's not just like, crazy things for messed up people or whatever. Like, it creates so much empathy. And I think that's why readers are the most empathetic people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like, I was just talking to a reader about this today, that I think one of the coolest things about being an author is getting to like have people, especially not just like with a lot of like the kink, but like, having just a variety of different types of people and mental illnesses and situations in your book, but having people that can connect to that. And especially with kink, it's been really interesting because I've had people reach out who have said like, like I didn't realize that it was normal for me to be into X, Y, or Z, or to do this, or to want to do this. And I think that just with our entire community and type of books, that's one of like my favorite things about it, is that it's bringing more awareness, but like it's bringing comfortability to it. Which I think is kind of amazing, because I think especially like, even though we've come so far, like a lot of women, I think in particular, feel, a certain kind of way about wanting to experience those things.
For sure. And I think a lot of women don't have the opportunity, or but don't have like the confidence to ask for certain things. So I think it just lets them live things out safely before they possibly live them out.
Yeah. Or try to experience them. Have you ever had someone tell you that they gave their partner one of your books, or like read like a scene to them?
Oh yeah.
Have you had that?
A lot.
I think that's awesome.
Which I never respond to that. I'm like, oh cool, thank you.
Or like I had someone tell me that they got pregnant the night that they read my books, and I'm like, name your baby after me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the best. That's the best compliment ever. I'm reading in the
made
comments.
it okay to talk about it and ask for what you want. Yep.
Yeah. I have noticed that with writing and reading this, I've just gotten more comfortable talking about it, and Jake is still very like, what did you just say? I'm like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. Like when I've told him about Bex and I are co-writing a book and we brainstorm all the time. So I was telling him the other day about some of the stuff that like the kink stuff we were talking about, and he was like, I cannot believe people read this. Yeah, it's real popular.
My husband, whenever I talk to him about anything that I write, he just shakes his head and walks away. Like he can't do it. Like I don't want to know what's going on in that head of yours. I'm better if I don't know.
Does your husband read your books?
Oh, no. He is a history buff. He is like a documentary watcher. He will not read anything that is not that's fiction. He only reads nonfiction. And he doesn't understand why anyone would. He's like, but it didn't really happen, so why does it matter? You know, he's polar opposite.
He's like, it's not that serious. This is not real. None of these things are real.
I'll tell him about a character and he's like, but it's not a real person. You know, if I'm like sad, if something happens in my books that makes me sad, he's like, you made this up. Like you made yourself sad.
Yeah, but it was so good.
But it really happened.
It was such a good cry. Don't worry about it. I had like posted a video a while back of like there was just a super traumatic scene I was writing and I was like sobbing and my husband saw it and he's like, dude, what happened? And I was like, he didn't like he doesn't have TikTok or anything, so he didn't like understand the context and he was like, what happened? And I was like, I was just writing. And he was like, what? He was like, I don't understand why you're crying. I was like, it was a really traumatic, like sad scene. And he was like, it didn't have to be.
Yeah, I'm like, you're breaking your
did.
own heart, lady.
You're doing this to yourself.
I'm like, it completely had to be. It was fine. We're fine. These scenes. Mine only reads my spice scenes tries to reenact that. That's like 10 out of 10 goals.
Yeah. I feel like it would just be so awkward.
That's why I don't want my husband to read my spicy scenes.
Yeah, wait till you get your alien book going. He's gonna be like, look.
He does like alien things though, so he might be into it. I don't know.
You'll have to show him that like jaw thing and be like,
yeah, I'll have to get the grinder.
Yeah. Does this do anything for you?
Oh my god, my eyes are watering. Who is the author? Like, oh my god, it's like completely blanking me right now. But there's an author whose TikToks I watch that like her husband literally helps her write all it like. Oh my god, like do like all the prep and like the practice for. Is it Katie Robichaud? Her like husband like built her a whole ass like BDSM room to prep for her books. I'm like, my husband literally would be like, that's no, that's too much.
Well, they have that kind of relationship though. Like it's not like
like, not just for the books. Like that's just still for them. Yeah.
Sophie Lark.
Sophie Lark. I think I don't know.
Mr. Lark is very involved.
I have seen that. Yeah, Mr. Lark is very involved. My husband is he keeps himself like I don't know. He jokes about like going to signings with me and stuff, and he's like, I will go be your like biggest hype man and like point people to your table. And I'm like, you have no idea what my books are about. He's like, it's fine.
I don't need to know.
He's like, I'll make it up. It'll be fine.
Trying to convince Jake to go get a bunch of tattoos and stuff so he can be like the book boyfriend by my table because he has like a giant, I don't know, he looks like a lumberjack. And I'm like, I just need to write lumberjack books and you can be the guy at the table.
Men get very popular at those signings.
They really do.
They get a lot of attention.
With like give them index cards with all the tropes. That's so funny. I know it was funny because he was like, I don't know, joking about coming to a signing with me. And he was like, yeah, I'll sit behind your table and I'll bring people to your table. And I was like, okay, for one, don't, like, that's weird. And then he said something like, he was like, yeah, I'll tell them, read whatever. And I was like, I don't even have a book called that. He was like, you don't? I was like, you're not allowed. You're literally not allowed to come.
He's like accidentally hyping up someone else's book.
I was like, you're not invited.
And like the readers, they talk to us like how we're talking, like very open about things that, other people don't probably meet or talk about the first time they meet. I think my husband would literally crawl into a hole and die. He would be so disturbed.
And I think that that's like one of the like brilliant things about this community too. Like Haley and I've talked about, like, if you go in and look at the reader groups that have like a lot of people in them, I think it's so cool because especially with kink, and again, that's one of the things that I found so interesting is like, because I've looked at these groups and the requests for books that people are making, and how many times I've seen requests for like, okay, like, if you know me in person, you don't, because like they don't talk to us about people in person. But with the people in this community, like, they're all strangers and they're like, yeah, I want him to do this to her and say this and do this exact action or whatever. And people just get it. Like, I think maybe it's part of that desensitization, but with reading it so much and writing it, that we're like, yeah, no, let's talk about it. Like,
yeah,
it's no big deal.
Yeah, I definitely have learned that, like, being around family and friends who are not in this world, it's like people just don't talk about it the way that we do. And it's like I have to remember to like filter myself. Like, I can't just say like, oh, I read this in a book. Like, I don't know. I was trying to explain to my dad a book I was reading, and then I was like, oh, well, half of the plot is smut. I literally can't explain this to you, so never mind. Never mind.
But it's not just normal to just like talk about like corn with strangers.
Yeah. I grew up in a very, very religious household. Like, I don't even know if the word sex was ever said in our house growing up. So whenever I'm around my family, I have to like have a pep talk with myself. I'm like, okay. Because I have 2 daughters, but they're teenagers and we're just very like open, and I talk to them about everything because I always want them to be able to talk to me about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, within reason. I'm not crazy, but it's very much like a switch I have to flip in my head whenever I'm going to be around people I know that, aren't in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Savannah has the same experience.
What was the like pipeline from going to that to writing what you write now?
From what?
From going from like a religious household to writing like dirty.
So I always like knew that I didn't want to remain within the church because of other reasons, homophobia and racism and all kinds of things that I didn't find okay just for myself to witness. I didn't want to be there. And also I had a few experiences with men, full grown men, and me being a child, and I didn't want, everything about it just seemed icky to me. So by the time I was, I think 12, I didn't want to be in church anymore, but my parents made me until I was 16, and then I was able to stop. But somewhere along in between 12 and 16, I might have been like 13, 14, I went to my grandma's house for a summer, and she had an entire case of spicy novels. And that summer, I plowed my way through the entire case, and I never wanted to like go back. I just loved it. I did stop reading for a time period, but when I started reading again, I picked up a romance novel,
Yeah, just spiral from there.
Spiral from there, yeah. I mean, I think once you read one, if it connects with you, like, you're in forever, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's so
go, Grandma.
Yeah, go grandma. Which, if you knew her, you would not even think that she would, because she's like such a crotchety old lady. But yeah. And then I started working for authors, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, in the indie community. And then I started proofing audiobooks. And so just working in the industry, it was a natural progression. Just like the age. Things snowball for me often.
No, that's really cool though.
I don't know if she still has them.
Does she still have
I
them?
didn't pick up like my first real romance novel until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I just didn't grow up reading it. I don't know why. I just never did. But like I also didn't realize that fanfic was as big as it is until like the last 6 months. So I don't know. This is all still very new to me. I love it. It's really cool, but it was not something that I was really exposed to when I was in high school and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's just cool. The community and everything. Sorry, that was awkward.
She doesn't read my books. I don't honestly, I think she's probably she's a little senile, so I don't think she could read a book if she wanted to now. But she knows I write them and she's proud of me.
Do any of your family members read your books?
My sister does. And my parents have since left the church for a lot of the same reasons I did. And my mom will read my books. I won't let her read my biker books because I feel like if you knew my mom, picture the most wholesome, precious, sweet creature ever. And that is my mom. And I feel like if she reads my biker books, like, it's over.
They're just not going to look at you the same.
No.
My mom reads all of my books, and I'm always like, I really don't want to talk about it. Like, we don't have to discuss whatever you read. But when I first came out with my first book, my grandma was like, I need a copy. So she has like a copy of like my first 4 or 5 books, and she's like, I need the rest of them. I don't think she actually reads them, but she just has a bunch of shirtless men like just in her living room, like telling everybody who comes over. Like, it's just,
oh, that's awesome.
Biggest cheerleader.
So proud of you, though.
Yeah, my mom read Daddy Writer. Yeah.
I have
No, I'm not gonna read the books to her.
Could you imagine reading that content out loud? I would die.
Oh no, I edit. Whenever I'm editing, I say it like out loud as I'm doing it. Whenever I get to a smut scene, I just stop talking. Like, I cannot say anything out loud. I don't know why, but I just can't say it.
I mean, like today, when my dad came over, he was like, yeah, I'm going to leave with some books today, but he didn't have his glasses. So he was like, can you read me this? And it was literally like, he just opened a page and it was a trigger warning list. And I was like, no, no. I think I got like 4 in and he was like, I don't know what any of those words mean. I was like, that's fine.
Like, that's for the best.
Yeah, you're good.
It was funny because my mother-in-law, we got her a Kindle, and I think it was like last Christmas, and the first thing she said was, she was like, go, buy all your books on there and put them on there. And I was like, no, like, this has been a conversation we've had since I first started publishing. I'm like, no. I was like, if you do it, like, just buy them, online and don't tell me about it. I don't want to talk about it. It's weird. Like, it's your mother-in-law. So, like, I'm literally, like, with your son.
My mother-in-law reads my book.
Does she? Oh, God.
And she's read all of them, the biker books included.
And is she like,
does she talk to you about it?
She does try to talk to me about it, but I just shut it down because I'm very open. I don't have a filter, but I just cannot.
Yeah.
That's the one person I'm like, no.
Right?
No.
Yes, it's the mother-in-law factor. Like, I think that like my stepdad, like I could probably almost have a conversation with him about it easier than with my mother-in-law. And it's just for me, I'm like, I literally share a bed with your son. Like, I just cannot.
So icky, right?
Right. And she texted me, and she was, the first series that she decided to start with is My Gang Reverse Harem. And I'm like, why? Like, I wrote sweet books. And she was like, no, like this was your first series. And she texted me literally like yesterday, and she was like, okay, I'm done with this one. She was like, where do I get the next one? I was like, well, they're all online. She was like, okay, thank you. I skipped the sex scenes. And I was like, oh, okay.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I'm glad.
I was like, I don't want to talk about it.
Just don't tell me. My mother-in-law, like, that Jake's whole side of the family just doesn't even know that I write books or anything.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't come up naturally, and I don't think we're in a rush to tell them about it. I don't know, but it's just funny. My
right,
family
Lexi?
knows.
And... Huh?
Oh, I just said my family knows, but it doesn't.
Do you ever, like, sometimes when I'm writing, I just don't even think about what I'm writing, right? Like, I'm just clacking away. And then when I stop and I think about it, if I'm writing like a spicy scene, for just a split second, I'm like, my mother-in-law is gonna read this. Should I change it? And I have to like talk myself out of it. I'm like, no. We're just gonna go hard or go home, you know?
Yes.
Literally.
Write it for everybody else. It's hilarious because you guys are saying like, okay, just cracked foundation. Like, cause that was the conversation my dad had today. Is my husband literally said was, which one is the sweetest one you've written? And I'm like, dude, I guess like it's just one dude, one woman. There's a baby. Like it's nice. And then like I'm literally having flashbacks right now to like the horrible descript things that this man calls this woman while they're in bed. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought about that when I was writing my paranormal romance, because there's like a lot of choking in it, like passing out, like, you know. And I was like, oh my God, my mom is going to read this. Like, it's just, like, I was so stressed about it. She was like, oh, I loved it. And I was like, okay, I don't want to know that either, but.
Something, like, the one that always bothers me the most, knowing that she's read it, is, like, anytime that my characters go into, like, a daddy, you know, type of play. Like, that one to me always is just like so cringy to know that she has read those, you know?
I know. I have 2 books, I think, with it. And my mom, the other day we were talking, and she was like, yeah, I can't get into the daddy stuff. And I was like, please just stop reading.
Okay, literally today so talking about like the weird research that you've had to do. Like Haley and I were talking about it. So this co-write we're doing, it's got like religious elements to it, but it's also like a stepfather and daughter and then the brother. So I mean there's a lot of stuff happening there. But we were talking about like the religious stuff, and we were like, we kind of like almost need not okay, well, like we're gonna need sensitivity readers regardless, but no, like we almost need like a person that we can ask questions about the religious elements of it, because though we have some of that background, not a significant amount. And I was like, the only person I can really think of that I wouldn't feel completely weird asking those questions to is my stepdad was raised in an extremely religious environment up until recently. And so I was like, he can translate some Bible verses for us. So today we're literally at lunch, and I'm like, oh, well, like he's here, I'll ask. And he's like, well, what's a book about? And the first thing I was like, it's about a girl like getting on with her stepfather. And I was like, no, I'm out. Why? And my husband like looks at me and he's like, well, she gets with her stepdad, right? And my stepdad's like, I was like, I never even thought, never mind, you're no longer a source. Forget it. He was like, that's an interesting, he was like, people read that? And I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah.
I will say that like the whole step thing, I never thought was weird until I had a stepfather. Like now I have a stepdad and now I have step siblings, and it's like not weird, but it's just different because I'm like, oh, this is like I have this now, and it's just, I could never imagine doing that. It's just different.
I mean, it's just the same as like reading it, right? It's that
It's just one of those things that like you don't think about until you're like, oh, I have a stepbrother, and then you're like, oh, I've read a lot of stepbrother books. Like,
I mean, those step siblings, like, they really, like, pump them up, though. Like, they're, you know, just extremely hot. And then I feel like I've read a lot of the ones that I've read is, like, there's like, a disconnect. Like, they weren't ever close, or, like, you know, they spent a lot of time apart, or, like, he left and came back, and things like that. But then, like, also, like, Hale is one of my favorite books ever.
Yeah.
I have no issues with any of that. Like,
yeah.
And that goes back to, like, what we were talking about. Like, from the outside, if you just present an idea, it's insane, right? And it's just like, no, I would never. But you read the book and you read the story and you connect with the characters, and pretty soon you're reading a sibling love book and you're so into it.
You're so into it, and you're like, well, I mean, he's hot. Like, all of a sudden your brain is rationalizing all sorts of shit.
I think last time we were live, my brother, like my actual brother, got on live when we were talking about Hale, and I was like, yeah, I loved that book. And we started talking about what it was, and I was like, oh god, my brother's here. Like, you need to leave. It was just funny.
It doesn't seem insane until you're describing shifted scenes to your husband. Oh, Lexi, because you just read that book that I was talking about during our last live too. Huh? Is that what you're talking about? Because I told my husband about that book, and he was like, they have a name for that.
Looks like it.
Yeah, that's what my husband would say too.
Oh, well, yeah, there was a book that I was talking about on our last live where she's human, and she gets on with a wolf in his shifted form, and it was so good. And I was telling my husband about it, and he was like, a human and a dog? And I'm like, it wasn't like that. He was like, was it a dog?
You're like, there's more nuance than
was
that.
Was it or was it not?
I'm like, well, yeah. And he was like, and she was a human? I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, there's a literal name for that. I'm like, yeah, no, I get it, but it didn't feel that way. Like, he had people thoughts. Like, I don't know. It was good.
But he was so cute when he, like, snuggled up to her and licked her toes.
It was literally the sweetest relationship ever. I know. I got so many messages because I don't know, I just talked about it. I had just read it, and so many messages from people immediately after. They were like, yeah, I didn't think I could, but I can, and I want more of that. We're on the same page. You guys all went and read it straight after, I know.
What book was it?
Oh my god. You guys, what was it? Because now I'm blanking on the title. Alicia Williams, right? If you go into the woods.
I always forget there's a delay.
What can you guys make me buy in an hour?
I know. See, wait, no, I need to read it. I know. This book, and it's funny, I'm pretty sure it was Alicia Williams, I think.
Alicia Williams?
Yeah. If you go to the woods, yeah. And it's funny because, like, I messaged her right after I read it. I think I wasn't even done with it. And I messaged her and I was like, dude, like, I just want you to know that I've not read a shifter book where, like, he is shifted and she remains human. And it was done so good. It was so hot. She was like, yeah, we were talking about it, and she was saying that I thought that it was new, and I guess it's not. And it was just somebody in Amazon had called it that trope, you know, the one nobody's saying in the reviews. And I think Amazon kind of hit it because of that, but it's so good.
People just need to mind their own business.
I'm like, yeah, I get maybe that's what it is, but, like, that doesn't disqualify its hotness. And then when you read the books where, like, when you read the books where they, this is why I want to write PNR at some point where they can shift, like, just a portion of their body. Have you ever read that? And, like, if you're going to write alien, like, when they can just, like, shift their tongue. Have you ever read those?
I can't read PNR, but I'm willing to try for this one.
I know. Yeah, read that one. I think there's a scene where he's human, he just shifts their tongue. And I'm like, dude, like this. I wish this was real.
Yeah, I blame it on my aphantasia, but PNR and fantasy, like I just can't. Maybe I just because I can't see it in my head or whatever, but
really hard to visualize. Yeah,
really, really hard. So, but I've discovered monster romance I can totally do, and I love it. Yes. So I think I can probably read this because it's like a novella. It said there's not a lot of world building. I think we'll be good.
Oh no, it's just straight. It's like I think it's chapter 1. It's just
okay, perfect.
That's the whole purpose of it. 10 out of 10. One-handed 45-minute read. Great.
My hand is all better. I can move it. That was weird.
I watched your videos the other day about that.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
The wildest thing. I get trigger point injections because I get really, really bad spasms all over my body.
Yeah.
So they take a needle full of half-strength lidocaine and just shoot everywhere, like 15,000 shots every 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
And so she always does one right here because I get this crazy spasm right here. And for whatever reason, she hit a peripheral nerve, but I didn't know it until I went to go and pick up my phone and my hand just like thunked on my phone. And I'm like, wait, why is it not working?
That's terrifying.
But then the doctors were like all rushing in and everybody's like examining my hand. And I'm like, is there something really wrong? Like, what's going on?
And then it just like came back?
Yeah, it just came back.
Did she lidocaine to nerve?
Yeah. She just hit a peripheral nerve and it just froze my hand. So
like, no big deal. It's fine.
You're like, it's not like my career completely depends on this appendage or anything.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I had so much to get done that day because I had like a stack of orders to pack like that thick and I'm trying to finish a book and I'm just like sitting here like, I can't move my hand.
You're like, please, somebody can be my second hand today.
And it's my right hand because my husband's like, well, I'll wrap the orders. You just have to sign them. And I'm like, literally, okay. He's like, just try and sign with your left hand. I don't know if you can see that. Oh. It looks terrible. I'm like, no.
You're like, look, I know you wanted my signature, but
he literally taped the pen inside my right hand. And he's like, just try. Come on, you can do it. Oh, and don't tell me that it could have been permanent. I don't need that because I have to go in a week and a half and get them again. So.
Oh no. I would have had like a straight panic attack.
I went and I don't know, I was getting like dental work done and they accidentally, he numbed my nerve, but he hit the nerve and that like hitting the nerve itself, he was like, yeah, that never happens. I was like, cool, it did. like I was numb for like 3 or 4 days. I was like, this, I can't. Have you read Gargoyles, Misty? Any gargoyle romance?
I haven't read Gargoyles, I don't think. But the Milking Farm series had me in a chokehold like you would not believe. My every waking thought was of this series. I kid you not. I wanted my own milking farm.
Is the Milking Farm one, is it just like lactation aids or is it like the head cow? How do you say it?
No, she's like milking him for his.
That's okay. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Hugh cow? No, Hugh cow is like breast milk, right?
Yeah. Because I've seen a couple of like the Milking Farm ones. Are you talking about the really big one? Oh my gosh, who wrote that one?
Yeah. You can't ask me questions about names because I forget.
Noska.
I forget like the second I think of something.
Sam Costa.
I have like 4 different versions of the Milking Farm, like the different covers. I have I'm not. Oh, look.
Morning Glory milk confirmed.
My
Yeah.
water bottle. I have no other stickers. So cold.
So have you read all of that series?
Yeah. Is there just 3? Because I've read 3. I think there's just 3.
3. Yeah. The Breeding Clinic, Sweet Berries, and then the Morning Glory Milking Farm. Okay, yeah, I haven't I have not read those ones yet, but I want to. And I had misinterpreted what type of milking it was, and someone was like, no.
No.
Other way. I was like, that's
again, it's like something that you haven't read before, so it just like it's so satisfying. Like I just love it.
Yeah.
Sweet Berries, yeah, I've read The Mothman. The Mothman, he was a voyeur. He was a voyeur Mothman.
Is it about a Mothman?
Oh. I need to read these because I have not read any of these.
You haven't read them?
No. I remember when they got really popular on Book Talk, and I was like, okay, I need to read them. And I never did.
Well, okay, so that's what I was going to ask you, is it, because if I haven't read any, God, see, I'm probably butchering this, Hukau? Is that how you say it? Do you think it's Hukau? That I haven't read any of those. Are those lactation books, or...
Yeah.
You know? Is it
but
female
they're
lactation,
like,
right?
The women are more, like, put in a stable with, like, machines.
It's an uddery type of situation, right?
Yeah.
I think, okay.
It's not like,
Okay, it's more like survival. Oh.
Yeah, it's
okay.
different than...
Okay, so it's not... Okay.
Like a lactation kink.
Okay, got it. I've seen them, so I've seen that they're like, that's such a popular trope in like kink, and I don't even know if it'd be considered a kink. Okay, so is it a sexual thing?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I haven't read one, but I've just heard about them. I did, however, buy my first one because I saw a TikTok today about it, and I was like, well, it's not a stretch, you know. I'm already doing into my lactation deep dive. Let's just veer off into this sector. So I haven't read it yet, but I did buy one today or yesterday. I don't remember.
Sustainable. Yeah, I've seen a lot of like the Hukau with like aliens. I can't remember what it was that I had read like a blurb on one, and I think like she was sent like to another planet for that purpose, to be like added to that.
Yeah, I think it's more like what's the word, where like imprisonment type of situations. I don't know. That's the vibe I got from the...
Yeah, we can still make that hot.
Oh, you can make anything hot, honestly.
It's funny because like with the lactation thing, like Haley and I were talking about it with because there's different types of it, and I'm sure now that you've sunken into reading it, but I've read it in actual like kink and read it in like adult breastfeeding. Yeah. And it's funny because when you're reading it, even like at the adult breastfeeding moments, which I think are supposed to be more like they're more sweet and comforting, but when you're reading it, I think my brain has like lost the filter where it's like, no, this is not this is not supposed to be a hot moment. Because I read like hot lactation, I'm like, are you sure? Wait, that was it? Like I read one where did I read it, or was it in research? Oh my god, was it in... Now see, the lines are all blurring because I can't remember if I read it in a book, if I researched it, therefore it was probably on Reddit and somebody actually really did this, or if it was in like Corn. Like I can't remember. But I'm talking about the lactation and like using that for like lube.
Oh, somebody asked me about that the other day.
It's just a random question to ask you.
Wait, I think it was my friend Diana. Oh, because I made her go down the rabbit hole with me. And she's like, okay, so I just read this book, and she used the breast milk for... I don't know what I can say and what I'm going to get kicked off for.
For glue?
Yeah, for glue. And she's like, that was kind of hot. I'm like, I didn't even think about it. Like that's something that I didn't consider until that moment, because the ones that I was reading was they weren't even like the woman had been pregnant or was pregnant or whatever. It was the men were like forcibly giving them, it was a whole series, guys, okay?
Yeah.
Just giving them
Forcing
medicine.
Yeah,
Forcing lactation. I know, I'm unfazed with everything. It's a problem.
I mean, you get there. It just...
Yeah. But then I was like, well, now I want that.
I haven't read forced lactation, but when I was doing my research, like there were a lot of like articles and pages and Reddits on that, on like how-tos.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing. Like they, you know, they want to induce that. And I went down the rabbit hole of reading so many things of like, oh, it took me a year, but now I'm steady. And I'm like, God damn, like it's just a world I never knew. And then Haley and I have talked about this because with the kink, because we've talked about, you know, what other type of like kinks we're going to utilize and stuff. And then we've talked about, you know, DDLG, and like, there's so many crossovers, but then also like misinterpretations of like thinking one thing is another. That's why also like with adult breastfeeding and lactation, for me, from my research, I believe they're like super different, because one is comfort and one is kink.
Yeah.
But that when I was doing the lactation research, again, it was in Reddit, because that's where shit just gets weird. But like there were so many conversations and people that then became like a, oh my God, but I don't know the like proper term. Haley, we talked about this, like adult baby play.
Oh, it's fuck. What is shit? I keep cussing.
I think you can cuss. Like I think you can cuss. I think it's like the schnex terms that like.
Okay. I can't remember like what we're gonna get flagged for, but what was it called? It's like adult baby diaper lover or something. I think that's what it's called. I just fell down this rabbit hole the other day researching stuff, and I was like, what in the world? But
oh, Bella, you came in at a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baby DL. Yeah, it's all very interesting, because we were talking about that, and I don't think I've read. I'm sure that they exist though, but I haven't read any of that content. But when I was doing my research, I wanted to make sure that I was like keeping it very particular to not like, you know, let any of those lines cross, because I think that people in the kink community that do participate in like adult breastfeeding, like that it's very, in its actuality is very, very separate from like true lactation.
Oh yeah.
Which now I'm assuming is also very different from a cow. I did not know that was a thing. I'm gonna read one now.
I think that's like the best thing though, is that like even the things that I don't necessarily find like I would never force lactation on myself, you know. I don't desire that kind of relationship, but I sure as shit love to explore it in books, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
The same good, Nicole. I'm looking forward to it.
It's like I have so many firsthand experiences with all of these things. We love that.
Nicole's gonna tell me she's forcing her lactation right now.
Just not saying no.
I'm not starting rumors. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I read everything once. And that's the problem with me, is like I said, that there's not many that I've read that I haven't been able to like rationalize or be okay with.
Yeah. Gotta do like research.
Aww. I miss that very much. And that was interesting, because I mean, like with any of them, but like with lactation, like if you talk to people who like actually participate in that during pregnancy, like even like my best friend, we had so many conversations about it, and she was saying like that was like when she got okay with it by the time for her second child, that was like a really it brought her and her husband a lot closer. And we've joked about it because I've told my husband when we have kids, I'm like, dude, like, will you? And he's like, no. And I'm like, don't knock it till you try it. Like,
well, and when you are breastfeeding, I breastfed both my kids for a year. Like, you don't feel like your body is your own. You know, you feel like it belongs to this tiny little human. And so for them to like take that feeling away by then again making you a sexual being, like, that must be empowering.
Yeah. Taking yourself back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine said no to at first.
My friend said she's trying to get pregnant. Like, she already has 2 kids, and I think she's kind of breastfeeding still, but they're trying to get pregnant again, and her husband is like 100% down to try it. And I was like, okay. She was like, I'll give you all the firsthand knowledge, but
take notes, please.
Yeah, anyone that's just coming in, I mean, it's
yours asked first. Lexi, the things that you've talked about with your partner, like, that is interesting, like, I want to high five you from a distance and your partner. Because, like, I mean, to each his own, but my husband is a freaking square. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. And who just said that? My friend's husband said she leaked one night and he just stopped. That would be mine. Mine would run and get a towel and be like, I'm sorry.
That would be so sad.
I breastfed twins for 15 months. It's like, wait, where am I? I mean, it is kink
We're
talk.
We're not
actually
going there the way you think we are.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Misty or about kink or about anything? I asked, this is why I hate that TikTok is like only available on the phone, because I asked, of course, on Instagram if anybody had any questions, but now I can't go access my Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
I really wish
that whether I could go live on the computer, because I can get to TikTok, but can you go live on your computer or no?
I don't think so. I've tried before because I'm like, it would be so much easier, and but I don't think that you can. The same with Instagram.
So probably start with Birdie Spiker, and then you'll get the cage context.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good. I think your series was like my first introduction to MC, and I was just like obsessed with it after that.
I love MC
so
much. You can go live on laptops. What do you mean?
You can?
Does it have to be like a certain kind of laptop? My laptop won't do it. I've tried. I know somebody else was like, what was one of our lives? Somebody was like, well, just get a second phone.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Hey, Lexi.
Your MC series I just started. Misty, isn't it? It's been a while since I've read your MC series, but Haley and I were talking about the different kinks in it, and I mean the cage one is like one of the most notable for me, but that's like across most series that like that one has always just stuck with me. But doesn't one of them, and God, I cannot remember which one it is.
Bexley's Biker has knife play and blood play a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I remember all of that. Is it the fourth one where there's the mirror?
Oh, yeah. And then in Riley's Biker, they use a mirror. She sticks suction cups a toy to it, and then she does herself with the toy while
he watches, right? Doesn't he like tell her to? And I was telling Haley, I was like, those two like have just stood out to me for a very long time. Like, since I read them, I'm like, I don't know. They were so hot. They were done like so well.
Thank you.
You only have Apple laptops, but you can go live on that. So then wouldn't I be able to go live on my Mac? I've not tried it for my Mac, so I don't know. Interesting. Bump these up my TBR. They're so good. You guys have to read them.
Yeah, they're so good.
I think that when I first like started reading, I'm pretty sure that Misty's MC was the first MC I'd ever read.
Yeah.
I love that.
I didn't know MC was like as big of a world as it is because I was just really reading yours, and then that kind of branched into Kay Webster's, and I read both of y'all's like thing, and I just became obsessed with it after that. But I didn't realize that MC is like its own like giant thing, like Mafia or anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not like as big as a lot of, hi Daisy, a lot of
Hi.
genres, but I wish it was, because they're just like in Mafia or just like in, whatever. There are no rules with bikers. I mean, like you can do anything. It's so freeing, and the guys, like, they can be dicks and it's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they're like writing an MC book, like they really are probably like they are in real life as far as like the lawlessness of them. They just bend and flow, and you can like literally do whatever, like really do whatever you want with them. I think that it's interesting though with MC that because like when I started writing mine, and that's not even a world I've like sunken into, but when I first started doing the research on it, that the like rabbit hole of research I did for MCs, and like that whole, I don't know how much, like if you probably had to do some too, that it is like mind blowing of like the facts that you can find about like true 1%ers and stuff like that, that I didn't realize how accurate a lot of like the MCs that we read are as far as like what goes down with real 1%ers. My like brain was blown.
Yeah.
So here in Reno, there's a lot of bikers, like a lot. And in the summertime, they are like everywhere. And it's all of these different MCs that are just like going around. And that's like what got me to start writing it, was just that feeling that I got when I was like at a stoplight and there's 50, 60 bikers, behind me in a row. And I was like, I just get so excited. I get like all tingly, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be part.
I'm not sure I understand.
No.
Saying the word serious, huh?
But I just love it so much. I wish more people would write MC.
My cousin isn't an MC, and it's like I've talked to him a little bit about it, but he's like very hush hush on what actually goes down. I mean, I don't think he's like in anything intense, but like I also don't know. But when
you are in Texas,
huh?
I said you are in Texas.
Yeah, and he's like in South Texas. Anyway, we went into a tattoo shop because I was gonna go get a tattoo, and we like walked in, and there was like a guy from like his rival MC there, and I was like, oh my god, like I have never felt so much anxiety in my life. I was like, are we about to like live out a terrible part of a book right now?
You don't know what he does. Well, it's funny because I was like, okay, so when I was writing mine, like I said, I only have like basically a novella out for it, so like I haven't done as much research yet for it. But when I was doing the research, one of the like research contents that I found was something that was, I have no idea how I access this, but it was something posted by actual like law enforcement and the FBI of their like deep research into 1%ers. So it had like all these statistics and like bullet points and like name dropping. And there was a lot of it on California. And I had this conversation with my husband because there are now I'm even like scared to like say it, but like the really big MC in California, like the scary one, that there are some in my neighborhood. And I told my husband, I was like, I want this to be represented accurately, but what if someone comes for me? And he was like, nobody in an MC is literally ever going to read your MC romance book. And I was like, stop it. I was like, you don't know that. And I was terrified. And so I tried so hard to stay away from anything that was like everything. A lot of it was legit, but I never dropped any names. And then I published it, and then someone messaged me and they were like, did you know that one of the MC names that you used is a real MC in California? And I was like, how out of all things that
you didn't Google it?
I thought I did. it was just like one of those ones where I was just like writing it and it was like just a side, like they're irrelevant. And I was just like, oh, let's just call them that. And I was like, no. And then last week, somebody commented on one of my MC videos and they were like, when is the next one coming out? And I went and peeped his profile and he's an MC. And I was like, no,
I remember you telling me about that.
And I was like, I told you. I told my husband, I was like, I told you.
I had the wife of a biker, like a 1% biker, read one of my books because somehow one of my TikToks got onto her FYP. Anyway,
it's about motorcycles.
He was pretty pissed because in Birdie's Biker, he's like, you know, I don't let no bitch on my bike or whatever like that. And she was like, if any of the guys ever said that to one of us, he would have his ass kicked and blah, blah, blah. And that was so unrealistic. And I was like, I agree that, you know, maybe it was, but for Loki,
yeah,
not so unrealistic for his character, right? And she's like, well, I guess. And I was like, well, continue on with the series and let me know. And she's like, how did you change my mind? I came into this chat so pissed off at you, and now I already bought book 2.
You're like, well, it's his character. Like, it's not necessarily like all the time. But also with MCs, like, that's something that I think that I've read a lot in MCs is that whole, like, no woman on the back of my bike, and that there's this whole, you know, and that, I don't know, it's just like with anything else, that there's, it, you know, they're not real, even though they're based on real things. Haley and I were just talking about this with the cartel the other day, like, and she was like, she was asking her mom for help with like a translation for something that I was writing. And her mom was like, no cartel member is ever going to read her book. And I'm like, but okay. But also like, what if like,
but that biker commented on my TikTok.
Let's try to not be like offensive, but I'm like, let's be real. But
I do put disclaimers at the beginning. That's like, this is like my, you know, imagination going wild on what I think an MC might look like. Like, nothing in here is real.
Yeah.
Don't take offense to anything.
I probably need to go back and add that to my first MC book. I did like the awful thing and was going through Goodreads reviews the other day. I shouldn't have done it, but
no, you don't ever do that.
A lot of people are like really pissed off that there's a part in that book where the guy gets taken and she rides his bike back to the compound, and like I get so much crap for that. They're like, oh, a woman couldn't ride a Harley, and I'm like, that's funny, like my aunt did, but like
no.
I don't know, I mean, I get it, but like it's just a book, it's not that deep.
I think that's where you get with like we're talking about like with the MCs and stuff, like Misty saying with hers like that, you know, Loki said that, but like a real MC member wouldn't say that. But that's where you get the difference between the real life of what, especially when you get like a big genre like MCs or Mafia or whatever it may be, that like in real life this would never happen. But in the fictional world, it absolutely would, because I feel like we've almost created our own version of what this looks like.
Oh, 100%.
We were talking about like with Omegaverse. I don't know if you've ever read any of those, but with Omegaverse, like even Human Omegaverse, it's not a real thing, but it's almost created its own laws. Like there's so many people who have written it, and after the first ones, like it just followed a certain hierarchy in the way that it should look and the way it should be presented, that it's like almost become law. And I was talking to my husband about writing a fantasy at one point, and I was like, well, you know, if I wanted Fae in there, and it terrifies me because Fae has become its own, like, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, they say, like, this is law for Fae. And he's like, Fae aren't real. And I'm like, no, but they are to people. Like,
yeah.
But I think, like, a lot of times, like, the breakthrough books that just, you know, right out the gate, hit the charts, they're the books that don't follow those rules necessarily. They're the books that like give somebody something new and different within that same genre to read.
Yeah.
So
take a twist on it.
You write those Fae however you want.
But fair, real.
Welcome to the Dark Side is my favorite MC book. And Dinkley, thank you so much for listening to Birdie's Biker. That kind of
I can imagine.
scares me. I'm so scared when anybody reads my books.
I like ugly sobbed while I was reading Welcome to the Dark Side. I finished that book in a night and was just like ugly crying. Jake got up for work the next morning and he was like, Are you okay? And I was like, No, I'm not. He shaved his head.
What's your favorite MC?
I mean, I'm going to have to say Birdie's Biker. Actually, I like Truly's Biker a lot because I really like. How do you say his name? Rock? I asked you this last time too.
I know. I like to confuse people apparently with names.
I really like that one, and then I'm gonna not. I don't know. Whatever. I read a lot of Layla Roberts books, and she writes a lot of like daddy books, and she has an MC series, and I go so feral for that series. But yeah,
I love the amount of. I actually think that it was Haley that introduced me to your books, Misty. When I had like never read any MCs before, and she was like, "You have to read these." And I think I read both of you guys around the same time, and I was just like, I never went back. MCs are just so good.
I don't read a lot of MC or like anything that I write about. I just don't want to like subconsciously take something. But there's a few, like Misty, you're one of them. Layla's one of them. I can't think of other people, but I know like if y'all come out with something, I'm gonna read it. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't read as much as I probably should, but
I'm the same way, especially like writing dark romance, that like while I'm writing dark romance that I read fluffy shit. And like the fluffier the better. The insta love and the gush.
Yeah. I sometimes just like need a break from the darkness.
Yeah. That's why I always write like things in between all of the biker books because I can't go there all the time.
Palette cleansers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I better go. My husband is in India, and I have no idea what my kids have done while I've been locked in here.
I know. I just noticed
there. The snow is going to be inside the house instead of out. Like, I don't even know.
Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us, and I'm excited to keep doing more of these. Thank you for being our first.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. This was so fun. Anytime you guys want to chat, I'm down.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much for popping in with us. Bye.
Bye.